Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another, for the first time in a long time, a preview stream ahead of Manchester, West Ham United versus Chelsea. Tomorrow night, Friday evening, 8 o'clock kickoff UK time. And I'm hyped in a way. I'm hyped because I just want to forget about not winning the last game. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully winning the game tomorrow. I'm also even more excited to be that's been arguably even longer than since the last preview that we've had Pys on the channel. Since Pys started streaming himself and since we started doing our podcast together, link to that is down in the description, by the way. Well, it's just happened less that we got on streams together, hasn't it, Pys? So I'm very glad to have you back on. I appreciate it very much. Not the greatest start to the season, but we've had a week and a couple of days with a lot of things happening. Weird transfer news, Strasbourg, Blue Co signing players, and we're like, how's that happening? The weirdest bits of transfer news, I guess. Plus, we've announced, for me, one of the best looking third kits I might have ever seen. But we'll see whether Pys agrees with me here, whether the people later on in the chat will agree with me here. We shall see. But yeah, Pys, thanks for being back. Where do you stand on Chelsea right now? Not the greatest start to the season, but do you reckon we can, make it a better start tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we should. Should. I mean, probably should. I mean, West Ham are pretty poor. They have been for a long time. I think all their fans are kind of disillusioned with our former manager, Graham Potter. So, yeah, I mean, they're not doing great. They've not done much transfer activity either. I think a lot of their fans are very unhappy with the board. So, I think Chelsea are in a much better position. I think we'll be looking to the mentality I think is definitely there. I think we're looking to bounce back, and even though it's an away game in the evening, I think, I mean, not that the support was bad at the Bridge the other day; it was very good. But the players last season said they preferred playing away and all this, and I think, I think it's a good game for us to go into, even though it is an away game. I see, West Ham, especially because they didn't get a very good result in the first game week. I think they'll probably not like full out attack, but I do think they will attack and leave gaps open. And I just think, if you do try and play football against Chelsea, PSG have seen that, the best teams have seen that we will destroy you. Our problem is when we have 70% of the ball and, the other team sit in a line of 6 at the back, that's the way sometimes we drop points. But yeah, I do expect Chelsea to win tomorrow. I'm optimistic about it. And yeah, I mean, not too much else to say on that.
No, exactly. Not too much else to say. I mean, on that very note, we might as well start speaking about West Ham. Obviously, you touched on it there. A bad result last week. They lost 3-0 away at Sunderland. Obviously, promoted Sunderland. Now, I'm not going to try to read too much into that. I agree with you that because of that bad result, they will probably be slightly more on the front foot than they might have been otherwise tomorrow against us. But I wouldn't necessarily say instant West Ham are now completely awful for the whole season. I think first home game after being promoted for a huge club and huge stadium like Sunderland, I think was going to be difficult for whoever went there. Now, obviously, you shouldn't lose 3-0. But when you look at the stats, it wasn't quite a 3-0 game. So really intrigued how that's going to go tomorrow. Before we take more of a deep dive into the West Ham game, just so we don't, clutter topics left, right, and center. First and foremost, I want to quickly talk about the new Chelsea kit that got announced this morning. By the way, welcome everybody in the chat. Welcome everybody that is tuning in. Noelto says Nkunku is better. Not sure who he's better than, but thank you for your comment. Daniel says Estevao got started against West Ham. I assume you mean got to start against West Ham. I think so, but we'll see whether myself and Pys do agree with this. Now, I just have to bring this one up here because, frankly, I can't really get over it. I mean, wait, I just need to find the appropriate one. Here it is. With this Club World Cup badge on it. I assume this is edited, not a real one with the Club World Cup badge on it, and I would assume it's going to be on that kind of left side of the chest. What do you make of the new third kit? Like, it's a bit of a banger if you ask me. Like, I don't know. When it was just announced with just the badge in the middle and the Nike tick on the right, I was like, ooh, I wasn't really so fully sold on it. Kind of my OCD, the asymmetry of it, I wasn't sure. But with the Club World Cup badge, it's like they produced it for having the Club World Cup kit. That's almost what it feels. Club World Cup badge. That's almost what it feels like. Do you like it? Do you like it as much as many people say? I've seen a Crystal Palace creator earlier saying this is the best kit he's ever seen. So I was like, fair enough. It's not just us that like it then. So yeah, where do you stand on that kit, bro?
Yeah, very nice kit. I think I'm gonna definitely cop that. And there's also a really nice jacket going around as well. I think there's also like a blue training version that looks quite nice, similar to this. I think the best thing about this kit is the badge. And I'm still like, I didn't even know you was allowed to have like an old badge on like a 2025 kit, but that's
Okay.
it's really, really nice. The problem is that we always have the best third kits and we wear them twice a season, and it's like, I just really hope that the 2 or 3 times we do use this season, we have like an absolute masterclass, and there's lots of sick pictures of Cole Palmer celebrating in it and everything, because it's such a nice kit. I mean, yeah, the black and the white just goes so well. It's just so clean, isn't it? I mean, I think this looks great with or without a sponsor. I think actually, I think because it's black and white, I think the colors and the bit of the blue, like, it just merges so well that I don't even know if I'd want the Club World Cup badge on it, because it's like gold just looks so different on it. But like, yeah, I mean, the black, the white, the blue it just goes so well, man. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna be getting it without the Club World Cup badge and probably without a sponsor as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. See, for me, it's one of those where I'm like, if I'm going to get it, and I very much think I will definitely get it with the Club World Cup badge. But I agree with you that it might look just better without a sponsor, purely because, well, I don't know, it just looks so classic. Now, if they turned out with a retro sponsor like Autoglass or Coors back in the day, now that would slap. But like a modern sponsor, who we still don't have one, but if we turn up with one, I'm not sure quite how good it will look then. But yeah, like I say, the asymmetry without the Club World Cup badge isn't so fully it for me. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a big fan. Excuse me. I do like your point about that we don't really wear the third kit that often. I feel like maybe rather than that being to do with is it the third kit or is it the away kit, I think it's more to do with the colors. And usually, if I'm not mistaken, you can tell me whether you have a different kind of perspective or perception. I feel like whatever the white kit is, we wear the least usually, because I feel like on our home kit, obviously it's not white, it's very blue, but we have white socks on it, for example. So I feel like usually it's just whatever the white one is, we don't wear as much. But then again, obviously we wore this one that I'm wearing right now for a lot of the Club World Cup. We wore that kind of off-whitey one with the blue kind of collar and sleeves and whatever last year quite a lot. So let's see. But yeah, I do hope we wear it more than a couple of times. I do agree with that. Now, a lot of the chat seems to be, currently at least, more interested in transfer news. So why don't we just speak about transfer news before we start speaking about the West Ham game specifically? And the biggest one and the most confusing one I have to bring up here. This came out, well, Fabrizio literally says David Ornstein on screen. David Ornstein posted this like, well, last night, as you can see, my time, quarter to 10 UK time. And David Ornstein said, exclusive, Blue Co reach agreement with Brighton and Hove Albion to sign Julio Enciso. Personal terms in place with 21-year-old Brighton midfielder and Paraguay international, expected to initially spend time at Strasbourg, but viewed as long-term Chelsea player. Now, Pais, we'll try to dissect this as much as we can now. But for me, this might be one of the strangest transfers I've kind of ever seen. Maybe you probably think, why is he exaggerating like that? Sorry, I'm just trying to find the best appropriate tweet. Pais explaining, well, through Fabrizio Romano, but explaining the details of this deal. I'm so baffled. Now, a lot of people will know Julio Enciso. He scored that absolute worldie a couple of years ago against us for Brighton. I feel like he also scored a worldie against City on one occasion. Like, what most people know him for is scoring those few worldies. Now, what I wasn't fully aware of until I looked into it a bit more, he spent last season actually on loan at Ipswich rather than being at Brighton. And now we've signed him for a ridiculously cheap sum, I feel like, considering Brighton usually steal us for every penny we got. Now we spent £12 million plus some add-ons. But so first of all, do you find it as weird as I do? Because obviously the Ornstein announcement was Blue Co, finding a deal. So is Blue Co as the entity is making a signing? Where is he going? It's super strange, especially because Brighton have a sell-on clause. So that makes me think, so if we put him to Strasbourg now, but officially as a Strasbourg player, how does he then get to Chelsea if that's what we're planning? Because if they have a sell-on clause, we still have to sell him from Strasbourg to Chelsea. So how's that going to work? Or are we just going to loan him from Strasbourg to Chelsea? I'm honestly baffled. I find it very strange. But at the same time, it just screams, Chelsea found another loophole. I don't know exactly what the loophole is yet, but it screams loophole. Doesn't it to you? Like, maybe you have a different perspective on it than I do. But I find this one of the weirdest transfers I've seen, honestly.
I mean, the player, I don't find too weird, because like I've got a couple of really good scouting contacts who know some of the scouts, and they have been tracking this player since July or June 2024. So a couple of years now, amongst some others. And I think, will he ever play for Chelsea? I don't think so. But this is just another part of our strategy, isn't it? It's like buy players for cheap, the cream rise to the top, or whatever the saying is, and it's like, yeah, everyone just kind of battles it out. Who's better out of him and Paez? If Enciso has an unbelievable season at Strasbourg, okay, well, we either bring him in as a backup option or we sell him for 30 to 40 mil. We get him so cheap. It's like Renato Veiga. We've just sold him for 25 mil. We bought him for 12 mil. This is part of the strategy, and it's player flips. It's player trading essentially. And if they're not good enough or there's no space in the squad, well, you seemingly get them at such good prices. And the majority of the time, that obviously because of the amount we do, there will be some outliers, but the majority of the time is, yeah, we will get these players cheap. Maybe they're on low stocks, but they've still got a lot of talent, or we find them from a club where it's like, oh, we need money, and then it's like they come to Chelsea, even like wearing the Chelsea badge or being pictured in the Chelsea kit, being associated with Chelsea on loan makes their price automatically go up. You saw this with Andre Santos. I mean, look at Andre Santos. Like, we bought him from Vasco da Gama for like £10 million. He had an unbelievable under-20 sub-tournament for Sub-Americana, whatever it was called, for Brazil. Chelsea then thought he was worth £20 million. He goes on loan to Strasbourg, one of the best midfielders in Ligue 1. And supposedly the other day, we've rejected a £45 million bid from West Ham. So it is a good part of the model. I think the counterpoint is, okay, this is all nice, making profit on players and player trading. It's just, what do you then spend it on, right? That's the more, I guess, the debatable thing, whether we use these funds and whether we use this profit correctly, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is the next big question, I guess. What do you do with that money? But just to I don't know, in a way, I agree with you, and I agree with what Vic says here. And Enciso is pure business. He's getting sold in 2 years without playing for Chelsea. There's a very good chance for that. Now, I'm no expert on him, but from what I found out in a little bit of research I did, he seems very much like a Xavi Simons style player, really. Like, I've seen people call him the South American Xavi Simons. Whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. But in terms of, playing as a number 10, playing half of the left, playing that kind of role. And obviously with us having Estevao, with us having Cole Palmer, with us having João Pedro, I don't really see how this will ever work. But what makes, in terms of how this would ever work at Chelsea, this is why I kind of agree with Vic's comment. But the part that I find strange is, I know it was obviously at Ipswich last season, so it was a relegated team, but before that, he spent time in the Premier League. So it's not like, Andre Santos is obviously a fantastic example where, loaning to Strasbourg worked brilliantly in terms of increasing the value. But we found, like you said, Andre Santos somewhere in Brazil, a Vasco da Gama. So he is already, Enciso has already had Premier League experience. He's 21 years old. He's not that young. He's young, but he's not that young. So it feels like the part that I'm so curious about is, how did we convince him of joining Strasbourg? That's the part I don't. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you've already played in the Prem, you've played for Brighton, you've played for Ipswich. Why are you happy with your next move being Strasbourg? Did we just tell him, yeah, if you're good enough, you'll make it at Chelsea? Because you and me can see it's very unlikely he's going to make it to Chelsea, just because we have too many good and arguably better players than he is in that position. So I just can't really wrap my head around how we convinced him of it. But good for us, because it's so cheap. It's guaranteed to be a profit sell-on in the future. Is it just something that, I don't know, like we all, as much as we need to sort out Chelsea's books, we obviously need to look after Strasbourg's books as well, so they can, when we need it, we can make signings via them or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do we convince him of it? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty strange. I mean, we seem to just convince these players that, like, if you have a good loan, then you'll be coming back to Chelsea and you'll be a part of our squad or something. I mean, it may be true for some players. Like, I could see that being true for Penders. I could see, obviously, that being true for Santos, who's now back here. But there's other players where you just think, like, I don't know about you, but when we sign a player and we send them to Strasbourg, or it's like a project signing, you just have that feeling of like, okay, he's going to be the level. Like, he could play for Chelsea, right? I just don't see that being Julio Enciso. I mean, he's just... Maybe one of the reasons why he's so cheap as well is because he's just had a knee surgery. So, like, I don't know, like, he's been injured.
Is he currently unfit, or is he backfit from the knee surgery?
I think he's coming back from it, but he's had it and he's like working his way back to it. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I will be wrong. But I just, like, with your Estevals, with your CFCPys, I still got to think he's got a feeling, if he hits the heights, Andre Santos, Penders, like, I feel like you just get a feeling that, yeah, they're going to be they could play for Chelsea. I don't know whether that's just a personal thing or you have the same thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Kendrick Perez there, which is also interesting because obviously he is on loan at Strasbourg. Again, very similar positions, very similar style of play. Not exactly the same, obviously, but yeah, are they both going to play? Is now Enciso going to take Perez's minutes away at Strasbourg, which that wouldn't really work to our benefit, if you ask me. But I mean, Mohamed says he flopped at Brighton. I'm not sure if flopped is the right word when I looked at the goal catalogue in that sense, and then he went on loan, absolutely. But I guess he's young, so I've obviously he's 21 now. He was obviously 20 at the time, so it's a fascinating one. I mean, Aravind says, wonder what's the PPT, our sporting director's project to all these agents. The PowerPoint. Yeah, I would really love to know. I would really love to know that as well. But I mean, I made this as a joke yesterday. You know how there's like these release clauses, like Palace especially, you know, with Elise, with Eze, all these lot. And obviously no one knows about them. But if you find out about them, it's illegal. And then Palace have a go at you, like obviously us with Elise. That's why he ended up going to Bayern instead of us. What if there's just a ridiculously low release clause in Enciso's contract that only Chelsea miraculously know about for like 4 million or something, and then we can sign him for way cheaper? But 13 million is so cheap in and of itself that isn't really worth it. Like if we sign him for 30 to Strasbourg and then we do something crazy like this, I would see at least a sense in it. But yeah, it's very strange. It's really very strange. And, you know, it's even more strange because, and let me bring up this next screen. A couple of days ago, Matt Law said that Chelsea have already set up a deal with RB Leipzig for Xavi Simons. So making it come across or making it sound like essentially the deal is fully in place. It's just we're waiting to make sales happen. Whether that's just in Nkunku or in Nkunku and Jackson that need to happen for Simons to come, I'll ask you that question in a second. But, you know, not that I think Enciso would at all be like instead of Simons by any means. But like I say, if they're similar players, it's just like, I don't really see the whole idea and the plan of Fabrizio saying, oh, he's planned for Chelsea from 2026. I don't know. I feel like we're going to put him to Chelsea and then sell him from Chelsea to give us more book profit. I think that's what's going to happen. But what's the latest on the Xavi Simons situations? Obviously, we heard that. So we essentially know that the deal is there. We're just kind of waiting for things to fall into place so we can finalize it. Are you confident? Like, obviously, Fabrizio said the other day, 85% likelihood? But again, you know, he said 80, 85 before, and in the end ended up being wrong. Not necessarily wrong, but things developed, and therefore, you know, it didn't end up happening. Yeah, it's just, we're just waiting on the sales, aren't we? So are those any closer?
I mean, not right now. I mean, at least publicly, but I do have a feeling that both Nkunku and Jackson will go. I think we'll sort something out, and it may take us, you know, bending on our price a little bit or willing to do obligations and loans and that type loan with obligations. I do think, well, we definitely need both of them on a permanent transfer because of all the UEFA squad register and stuff that I saw yesterday. But yeah, I mean, Jackson's definitely got more interest in Nkunku, but Nkunku, I'm sure he'll find a club. I mean, it may even be a surprise. I mean, look, Spurs just lost out on Eze. Maybe they come from Nkunku. Who knows? I mean, Bayern are only doing loans. Their supervisory board's only allowing loans, and Leipzig apparently at the moment only want him on loan, even though Ornstein said discussions on the permanent. So I don't really know about Nkunku, but Jackson, I'm pretty sure something will happen. Probably a loan with obligation. But yeah, I mean, the Simons one at the moment, the news is more about the player rather than any developments between the clubs. It's about like him rejecting all these other opportunities, kind of similar to Garnacho, right? I mean, yesterday, Fab said that Tottenham sort of made contact for Simons a few days ago, and he said, no, I want Chelsea. He said the same to Bayern, only want Chelsea. So he obviously really wants to join his friend Joel Hato here, doesn't he?
Yeah, it really does look like that's what he wants to do. I mean, it's interesting, especially Couture Criminal. I'll get to a couple of other of your comments in a second. He says these pro clubs on the continent, sheesh, man. I saw a kind of a stat. Now, obviously, I couldn't have fact-checked that, but it was basically comparing the spending of all the other leagues and the Premier League. And supposedly the Premier League has already spent well over £1 billion this summer. Maybe it's euros, whatever the currency they used was. But I think £1.2 billion. And the other leagues haven't even got past 200 million, I think, all in total. It's kind of insane. Now, I'm not sure because I was reading the chat. Did you say which clubs Nkunku rejected?
Sorry, what was that?
Did you say which clubs Nkunku reject? I was reading the chat, so maybe I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, and Nkunku, no, he's not rejected anyone really. Nkunku.
Yeah.
Or did you mean
It's just
Simons?
he doesn't want the approaches. Oh wait, did you mean Simons that rejected others? Oh my bad.
Simmons rejected Tottenham. Simmons has rejected Bayern. And there's also, I mean, Fab said there was like another club that tried for him that he's just answer has always been Chelsea, kind of similar to Garnacho.
It's probably Newcastle, that isn't it? Like how many other relatively big clubs with money are there? When he said it's not Liverpool, it's not United, it's not Arsenal, or whatever he said, right? So yeah, it's a very, very interesting one, especially the Nkunku one. Is the situation with Nkunku that he only wants Bayern, or do you think he's willing to go elsewhere as well? Because the clubs he's been linked with has essentially been Leipzig or Bayern first and foremost, right? Like obviously Arsenal have now got Eze, so they're not getting Jackson. They're not going to get Nkunku either. There's always been that Man United thing in the air, but obviously with signing Cunha, signing Mbumo, signing Šeško as well, I don't think they're going to go for another attacker. So is it just Bundesliga options for Nkunku unless he's going Saudi?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, publicly, we only really know about Bayern Munich and Leipzig, and both are like seemingly dead ends at the moment. I mean, Bayern definitely is a dead end because they've got like the bosses, right? Like Max Erbel and Christoph Freund and stuff, but then they've got like this supervisory board above them. So they're like their bosses, and they've said, no, only loans. We're not sanctioning any more money. They've spent a lot on Diaz, and so it doesn't seem like Bayern's likely anymore. And then you've got Leipzig, who a bit of mixed reporting. Like David Ornstein says, discussions are ongoing about a permanent. Sky Germany say they only want a loan. Fab said they asked for a loan. Chelsea said no. So I don't really know. I mean, mate, I'm just holding out hope for Tottenham because I had heard there'd been a little bit of interest, but I mean, they've got other targets as well. Fab said Tyler Diblin, Akliouche from Monaco. So I don't know where Nkunku's going to go, but he really needs to go. And I mean, to be honest with you, like I know we need a permanent transfer, but like, could we squeeze out a loan and sell another player elsewhere? And maybe, I mean, if we really want Xavi Simons, because the problem is we don't need the money to buy Xavi Simons. We've got enough money. It's about squad registering in the space, right? So it's like, it's not sell to buy. It's kind of, well, it kind of is, but in terms of a squad space, not a financial.
Yeah, it's not in terms of we don't have money. It's more.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't have the tweets ready to kind of elaborate this, but I'm going to try my best, guys, to kind of explain that situation. So essentially, as you know, from a few weeks ago, Chelsea got fined by UEFA for breaching the essentially financial fair play rules for 2 consecutive financial years, which was, I think, 23-24 and 24-25. I think could be 2 years before that. And essentially, if we now want to register players, it's not about the Premier League. If it's just about using Xavi Simons in the Premier League, we could go and sign him now or tomorrow. Doesn't make a difference. But it's about the UEFA so-called A list. Now, on the B list, you put young players from academy and stuff like that. But on the A list, you have like your main players, your main signing, stuff like that. And essentially, for us to register new players on the UEFA A list, we need to sell players from last year's UEFA A list when we were in the Conference League, but only for the knockout stages. So, for example, someone who we sold yesterday, we might touch on it in a second, Renato Veiga, who we sold to Villarreal, he doesn't count because he spent the second half of last season at Juventus and not in our UEFA A list squad. So that's why people like Nkunku, like Jackson. I think that's maybe also partly why we're trying to sell someone like Jackson so adamantly. No, I don't think that's a big reason for it, but I think it plays a role in it. And essentially, we need to have a positive kind of cost from A-list registrations in terms of if we want to register a new one, it needs to essentially be worth less than the ones from last season that we now got rid of. So essentially, that's the point. We need to get rid of players that were on the UEFA A-list last season. So yeah, it's a UEFA thing. This is why it's happening. Crispy says, why can't we swap Nkunku plus cash for Simons? Seems a no-brainer. Well, the problem with
we're trying.
Yeah, first of all, we are trying. But secondly, also, player plus cash deals aren't really a real thing. Really, like they're a FIFA thing. They're like a fan's idea. If it's always like a deal for 60 million for this guy, and then a deal for say 40 million for that guy, and then you can in a way make it say, okay, it's this player plus 20 million, right? In a way, but clubs will always make 2 separate deals because Leipzig will want the full money for Simons, so they have those benefits on their financial books, right? If they just get rid of another one, they don't have the same positives on their financial book. So that's why it's always one deal and another deal rather than a swap plus cash deal. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, regardless of how you word it, is it a direct swap or like 2 separate deals? it would be a no-brainer in the sense for Leipzig, but realistically, and you will, as I assume, think this as well, Pies, if you're Christopher Nkunku and you left Leipzig as Bundesliga Player of the Year, top goal scorer in the Bundesliga, this and that, come to Chelsea, spend your first entire season injured, spend your second season actually being fit, but just being useless. In whatever competition he played, he was not great in the Conference League, he was not great in the Premier League, and he played a fairly significant chunk of minutes in the second half of last season when Jackson was injured, when obviously Mudryk got the ban. Like, he played. Would you really be willing to go back to Leipzig? Leipzig aren't exactly a rich club, right? Leipzig aren't going to pay him huge wages. But on top of that, just because you touched on the Bayern thing, I don't know what Bayern are doing. Like, 3 months ago, they were willing to spend 150 million on Wirtz, but they just lost out against Liverpool. Then they've only spent 75 million on Luis Diaz, and now supposedly they don't have any more money. I don't really understand. They also sold Coman. They got, obviously, Sane left them. Müller left them. Müller, by the way, on ginormous wages. So I can't really understand how they don't have money. But also with Musiala's injury from the Club World Cup, surely they are so bloody desperate for signings in this area of the pitch. Like I say, Müller leaving and Musiala injured. That's both of their number 10s gone. Do you know what I mean? So what are you doing now? Honestly, I find it baffling. Utterly baffling how they are not more interested, I guess. But just to finish this off, and just because I want to touch on it from Couture Criminal earlier, what are your thoughts on Simons in general, Laurenz? I guess I can obviously extend this to you as well, Pies. I like him. Me and Pies talked about it on our podcast. Like I say, Chelsea Unfiltered, link is down in the description. Last episode came out 2 days ago. The next episode will probably be out on Saturday to discuss the aftermath of the West Ham game tomorrow night. We like him, right? I said it on our podcast. My brother's been a fan of Simons since Simons was like 15 or something. You know, like Ruben Loftus-Cheek was for me, who I heard about when he was 15, 16 in the academy. That's kind of what it was for my brother. I'm sure people know, like Xavi Simons when he was a kid with the big afro head, and everybody kind of heard about him. So he's clearly very, very talented. I found his career path a bit odd so far. Obviously, he was at PSG. Well, Barca Academy, then went to PSG, didn't really play, goes to PSV, does good there, then goes to Leipzig, and then went to Leipzig on a permanent, even though he was initially only on loan from PSG. Bit strange, but I like him a lot. There's a little bit of me that has some concerns. Number one, Leipzig, you know, Timo Werner, Christopher Nkunku hasn't really gone very well recently, has it? And then number two, stylistically, smells a lot like a João Felix for me. I don't know if you agree with that, but for me, you know, extremely high quality technically, various positions, but doesn't really have an out-and-out best position. So those kind of factors scream João Felix to me. But then you watch him play and you're like, you're that good. How can you not work? And I still think that if we just kept João Felix for a bit longer and gave the man a bit of time to settle in a place, I think he would have actually turned out to be a good player. Not like a Cole Palmer level player, obviously, but I think could have been a good player for us. Yeah, I mean, I rate him a lot, but I have a few concerns about how well the transfer at Chelsea is going to go. Where do you stand on it with Simons, bro?
Yeah, I mean, agree with most of what you said. I mean, he's an extremely talented player. I think, definitely is probably mostly a number 10. He's very creative, but his output's also been pretty good for Leipzig as well, and just general over the course of his career when he's actually played games. And I agree. I mean, a bit of a strange career path, but look, I mean, it's obviously not damaged him because there's been a lot of clubs, interested in him in this window, and it looks like he's settling on Chelsea, which is obviously probably good for us because I just don't see him. Like, for me, he's got more athleticism than Nkunku, and Nkunku probably would have succeeded here if he didn't get those injuries as well, to be honest with you. I mean, I do think he's a little bit more like when we signed Nkunku, it was like I didn't know whether he was a 9 or whether he was a 10 because he's such a good finisher that you want him in the box, but then he was so good at link-up play that you wanted him as a 10, whereas Simons, I'm like, well, he's not a 9 and he's probably not a winger, so he's just definitely a 10, right? So I think he's a little bit different. So it'd be interesting where Maresca used him, whether or not he maybe used him off the left but more tucked inside and then he overlaps someone. I don't know. We've had that debate about whether Cucurella or Hato can do that. The guy we spoke to on the podcast said Hato would actually be a really good overlapping left back if we used him there, but there's options. I mean, he scores. You talk about Enciso screamers. Simons is is such a good. His catalogue's ridiculous. Is what I'm trying to say.
It
So,
really is.
yeah, I mean,
I think there was a video going around when the signing kind of first became like a reality, essentially. That was like all his goals for Leipzig. Now, obviously, some of those are basic goals, but my God, there was some worldies in that as well.
What I'll say as well is like comparative to, I mean, the market is crazy this summer in terms of the prices. I mean, are you telling me that like Forest bought Hutchinson for 40 mil and we might get Xavi fucking Simons for 60 mil? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, but then again, also Enciso for 13 mil. So it's like the market's just weird.
I don't know what's going on though. Like, there's so many like players. I'm like, how on earth are you going for that much money? It's like Simons is there for 60 mil. I just think he's 10 times better than most of these players that are going for more than him. So I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. Leipzig are a selling club. They, you know, I think even a few minutes ago while we were recording, their boss has said that, you know, we'll see what happens with Simons, you know, until the end of the window, kind of leaving it open like Maresca does with Jackson and Nkunku today, you know, like, so yeah, I mean, it's less about him and it's more about, can we get Nkunku out of the club? You know, can we get that guy out of the club and then we'll have Simons? It's so frustrating. Oh, man.
Yeah, it really is a little bit frustrating. I mean, Crispy's comment here, he said he's also very similar to Palmer in the sense that we don't know exactly his best position, but he can help the team in different ways. This is true. The kind of, on the one hand, I agree. And then my next thought is like, but isn't that a problem? How many of those players can you have in the team at once? You know what I mean? Like having one of that, cool. Can you have two? Can you have three? That's where I'm a little bit less sure about. But honestly, I'm excited to see it. He's another one of those where I'm like, if we just don't ruin him, he's so good that I think we'll be able to probably sell him for more, even if it doesn't fully work out, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I'll be very intrigued to how it goes. And I mean, he's still only 22 and he's played, I think, over 150 professional games in his career. So, like, you know, it's almost like the reversal of, for example, the signing that Mudryk was back then, right? Where he was 21, I think, and hadn't even played 50 professional games. Like, it's like a complete reversal of a situation. So, yeah, but when we were, the link kind of became big and I looked him up more in detail, I was like, oh shit, he's still only 22. I couldn't really, you know, didn't really expect it, if I'm being totally honest. But there you go. Now, to get away from Xavi Simons, I did touch on another one a couple of minutes ago. Renato Veiga. We did complete the sale of Renato Veiga to Villarreal for, well, a good fee in total of £25.5 million package. That is including some add-ons. But we also got a heavy sell-on clause. Now, Fabrizio replied to you directly saying the heavy sell-on clause is complicated. It's a complicated mechanism. Could be 20, 30 or 40% based on add-ons, and more details like that in the upcoming year. So I would assume the more add-ons we get, the smaller the sell-on clause is, the more add-ons, the less add-ons we get, the bigger the sell-on clause is. The more add-ons we get, the smaller the sell-on clause is going to be. That is purely my logic. I don't know if you would agree with this logic or not, but yeah, I mean, we doubled our value for him, or the money we paid for him a year ago. I still find it annoying if the man was just a little bit more patient. Well, number one, we could have sold him off the UEFA A list right now if he didn't really want to go on loan in January. So he would have been more useful in that sense as well. Or he could have just been a centre-back option that we kind of lack at the moment. So, but in the end, a good amount of money plus a heavy sell-on clause. I like to be critical of the sporting directors, but on this, I think you kind of have to give credit. Would you agree, bro?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating with Veiga because I actually really rate him as a player, but again, talking about weird career choice. I mean, Villarreal. I mean, that's, I don't know, like pretty random, isn't it? Like I feel like he was at Juventus last year. Probably could have gone to a better club, but you know, his choice.
Well,
I guess
I guess
he's going to play regularly. He could have played central centre back for us probably if he wanted to stay, but I just don't. It's just a weird one because we don't know what really happened behind the scenes with this guy. Like there was a lot of, you know, a lot of the media was kind of painting him out to be a bad person, but then again, Chelsea's history under this ownership with, you know, player assassination and all that type of thing, character assassination. You never know. You never know. Maybe it was just Chelsea's decision and they were like, right, you know, we're going to use you as profit. So who knows, man? Who knows? But yeah. Good price.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to get hung up on this topic too long. We have a couple of other things to discuss, as well as obviously talking about obviously the game itself tomorrow. Just quickly, you tweeted this as we were live. Andre Santos was brought up in the discussions for Alejandro Garnacho between Chelsea and Manchester United, but Chelsea do not want to sell. Now, on that note, where do we stand on Garnacho? Now, there's been some interesting reports out of Man United. They don't want to sell for less than 50. Chelsea value him at 25 million. where is this going to go? Then all of a sudden, yesterday, we got a picture that I think threw a bit of a spanner in the works for the fan base a little bit, because it seemingly turns out Garnacho has been a Chelsea fan since he was a kid. Now, honestly, this could also not be Garnacho. Now, he could be Garnacho. I'm not saying he's definitely not, but I feel like he also could be somebody else. So I don't really know. Does that change anything for you at all in terms of I want Garnacho? Because it's weird that Garnacho, well, none of us want him. None of us think this is a smart signing to make, other than potentially from a financial perspective, because he's so out of favor of Manchester United. He's behaved so badly that we will probably be able to sell him, buy him for a really cheap price compared to his probably talent, like even compared to someone like Jamie Gittens. But the longer this saga's gone on, the more it's like, no, I only want Chelsea. He's telling United, I'll rot on the bench, no problem. Send me to Chelsea, or I'm rotting on your bench and taking all your money. So I don't really know. Do you think these kind of things are just coming out by the Garnacho people to like appease the Chelsea fans? Is this why these kind of pictures make the rounds? Or like, I don't know. Does it at all change your view on the situation? I'm thinking of myself now, just because obviously, you know, this kid just wearing their Chelsea jacket. I'm imagining if I myself from somewhere, or let's just say I'm from Austria, right? As I am. And then I make it as a footballer, end up going to Man United, this and that. And then my boyhood club want me, but then I see the entirety of the fan base that I was essentially a part of hates me. Imagine how that must feel. If you're a fan of that club, now, again, don't know if it's true, like Garnacho says, Unreal AI could easily be AI, absolutely true. But imagine if it is real. Your boyhood club, you're so buzzing to go to your boyhood club, and then all the fans hate you. Like that's gotta be tough to take, no?
Yeah, I mean, like it definitely Garnacho, by the way. Like all the Man U guys have said it's definitely him, and I mean, it's just crazy how like we talk about like Twitter, how everything spreads, but this is just from like small like fan account on Instagram. One Chelsea Twitter account found it, and then it's everywhere. It's like, what the hell is this? You know, I mean, who knows whether he was actually a fan or he just liked the jacket. I don't know. there's
Yeah,
I know
true.
like some of the guys, I mean, that probably in our group chat, maybe you yourself, maybe you buy other teams stuff because, you know, you like it, even though I don't agree with that.
The
but
only thing I've ever bought was a
happen.
Messi shirt. That wasn't Chelsea.
I mean, look, you know, there you go. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe.
I don't want him. Go away.
No, I don't want him either. But at the same time, like it's been going on for so long, I've gone past the point of do I want him, do I not want him?
It's like
We're getting it, so I need to just deal with it. Really,
Yeah.
There's no point in me just crying about it for the next 2 years until we get rid of him again. Now, Couture Criminal, it's a very valid point. Me and Pais actually discussed this on our podcast, I think last week, maybe the week before. Check Goldbridge's tweet on how manipulative Garnacho can be because he's good at social media baiting. Yeah, Goldbridge did like a clip where it's like, you know, Garnacho when he joins Chelsea will kiss the badge first game he plays or first goal he scores, and then he will probably on Twitter kind of, oh, I'm so glad to finally be at my club of dreams and stuff like that. He will probably do things like that. But this picture, I don't think it was him that sent this around. I don't think that. But there you go. Not going to get too hung up on this one for too long either. The last bit of transfer news that I quickly want to discuss, just because, you know, it's not directly involving the first team, I guess, but we're having a few, you know, I guess advancements that are happening. Borussia Dortmund are now in advanced talks with Chelsea to sign Conor Chukwuemeka on a permanent deal from Chelsea. Chelsea always request a permanent deal, and the deal is advancing. Borussia Dortmund also want Aaron Anselmino on loan, and Fabrizio later said that we told Dortmund you're only getting Anselmino on loan if you're buying Chukwuemeka on a permanent, which is fair, but also just to be clear, because Chukwuemeka spent the second half of last season at Dortmund, he is also not going to count for our UEFA financial restrictions. So for buying, say, Simons, for buying whoever else, also Chukwuemeka's sale wouldn't really make a difference. But obviously, Maresca spoke about Anselmino at a press conference today as well, saying like, you know, he's a good player, trains really hard, but he needs to play. I will say one thing though. We took Jamie Gittens from Dortmund's bench. Now I know when Nuri Sahin was still the manager, he was their starter. But then Niko Kovac came in, changed the system a little bit, and then Jamie Gittens spent most of his time on the bench. And he went from being on Dortmund's bench to currently our starting left winger. But Anselmino is not good enough for us, but is good enough to get minutes at Dortmund. I don't really understand that. I find that very confusing. Like, if he's, the way Maresca says it, kind of not ready to play for us, then he's not ready to play for Dortmund either. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you should start in the Premier League, obviously, but you can give him minutes if he can play for Dortmund. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, but it's like optically, this is the exact type of thing Dortmund do. They buy like a young, supposedly talented player on loan, they play him, and then maybe they'll try and buy him next summer. Or I could definitely see that. I mean, Maresca said that he's a good player in today's press conference, but he needs to go and play games, and he does. I mean, this is why I got so annoyed with the briefs the other day about centre back, because they put in there, like from Sky Sports, Carve was on the brief list. He was saying, Chelsea value Anselmino and he's going to be part of the squad. It's like, no, he's not. Like, shut up. Like, a week before this, Anselmino was never, ever even thought about. You know what I mean? He just come back. Like, no one thought of him like, oh, yeah, he's going to be in Chelsea squad this season. So, like, yeah, I mean, I hope this both gets done, because it looks very much like, I mean, as the tweet says, it's like, okay, if you agree to buy Carney, we'll give you Anselmino on loan. Like, that's a fair deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just do it, Dortmund.
Then that's a good deal for him. Yeah, for sure.
I hate Dortmund, by the way. I hate them as a club. Do you know why? Because these fuckers, every single time they sell someone, it's like 60, 70, 80, 90 million pounds. When it comes to buying someone, it's like, oh, we'll give you 15 mil and a bag of crisps. You know what I mean? It's like, where does their money go? They're the most stingiest buyers I've ever seen in my life. But selling, oh no, they're like Napoli selling. They're like ADL, like,
except
oh my
Haaland
God.
for some reason went for 50 odd million. Now, obviously, huge add-ons that City had to pay to Haaland and his people, but Dortmund itself didn't really get much money out of Haaland, which is kind of outrageous if I'm being honest. So, there you go. Let's see if those deals happen. I think, unless there's something crazy else to talk about, that's it with transfer news for the time being. I'll ask you this from the chat from Couture Criminal Pies. Do Wolves still want Dacio Fofana and or Disasi? Wasn't there a rumor that Bournemouth are talking to Disasi yesterday?
Bournemouth are in talks, yeah. I mean, all the journalists kind of confirmed it. Loan with we want a permanent. So again, I mean, if players late and you can't find solutions, there's only like 10 or 11 days left. And well, we'll buy him, we'll get him off you, but only for an option or a loan. And it's just everything right now is loan. Like, that's why I'm so happy about Veiga, because I'm
true.
Just money. Like, my God, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, really is frustrating. Now, Pies, we've spoken a lot about transfers, spoken about a lot of things. Let's focus on actually the game tomorrow night. Chelsea against West Ham. We didn't start the season with a win, unfortunately. As sad as it was, we didn't. But we're taking on a team that lost the first game of the season 3-0 to a promoted team. Surely, bro, we should get it up tomorrow. Now, so far, I'm trying to use a different lineup builder situation. Let's see how well it takes, how well it goes. Maybe we'll use another one next week. We'll see. Now, a principal formation out of possession. Can't even speak. A principal formation in possession is usually a 3-2-4-1, except against back fives, like last week, when we then end up almost playing a 3-1-6 or a 3-1-5-1, if you want to call it that. Now, I will shift players around if we want to do that in a minute, because West Ham also play in a back five. So the likelihood that we're going to have a very similar principal shape as we did against Palace is quite big. But Pies, let's talk about it. Now, hold up. What's happening here? I need to flip this. Where's that information again? Hold up. Flip players. Oh, no, it is flipped already. The goals, which side is which, I find very confusing. So we start in goal. You last week on your Twitter lineup that you hoped for the game against Crystal Palace, you said you wanted Jurgensen to start. Now, you know that's not happening. But Sanchez wasn't also decent last week, so we just go with Sanchez, yeah? Or you say, no, I want Jurgensen.
Oh, I just do it to rile people up, man. It's so funny. But no, I genuinely believe Jorgensen's better. But like, I just know. I know Sanchez is going to start. Obviously, he is. But I just do it. I just do it sometimes just to annoy people. Get replies and stuff.
Yeah, no, I do hear that. I do hear that. Now, we do have some really positive news, as much as Badiashile isn't back fit, and Romeo Lavia isn't back fit, and Fofana is fit and probably going to get minutes. But the way I took the press conference, maybe you'll disagree with this, Pies, I would be extremely shocked if Fofana started tomorrow. But Tosin is back fit. Only a very minor injury or minor niggle that he had that we kept him out of the last week's game, I guess out of precaution. He is back. So I'm almost certain he will start. So, Pies, with that said, what do you expect the kind of back three in possession to be?
So this is weird because I've got a team going out later that I very much like, that I want, but I don't think it's going to be that. So I have to kind of rethink
Yeah, more what you think Maresca will start, I think.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so probably I'd say Chalobah left centre back,
Yeah.
Tosin in the middle, and then James.
Yeah, I do probably agree with that. So Chalobah, they do even have the shirt. Is 23 his shirt number?
It was his old one. I don't know if it's his current.
No, his old one was 14, wasn't it?
Was it? I don't know.
And then he went to Palace, and then João Felix had the 14, so he couldn't have it again. I'm pretty sure it's 23. Yeah, I think so. Now we take it to Tosin, who is number 4. Do they have that correct as well? Yes, fair enough. Big up this website. And then Reece James on the other side, which I do agree with. Now, Reece James starting back-to-back Premier League games, that's nice in and of itself, really. Would I like to see him play sometimes maybe slightly further forwards, potentially? But hey, first of all, we've got an all-English back line. And hey, we got the clean sheet last week, whether it's Acheampong or Tosin. But yeah, it would surprise me if Acheampong still started. There's maybe a small case that you'd start Acheampong over Chalobah at left side of centre-back, just because, I don't know, Chalobah seems less gifted on the ball, so more suited to right centre-back, while Acheampong seems more versatile in that sense. But Chalobah's just got way more experience and just, I don't know, leadership and stuff, so it has to be Chalobah, right?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, you'd imagine so. But I do think Josh is very much suited to the wide positions because, like, I saw a stat on Sky Sports on Monday Night Football. He had the most carries out of any player in the Premier League game week 1. So, you know, that's the type of player you don't want playing in the middle. You want him playing right or left centre back. So, there you go.
Yeah, no, but that is true. I mean, we do sometimes see Colwill step up with the ball, but certainly not as much as Josh did. That is for sure. It'll be interesting whether that's just a trait of Josh or something that the manager asked for him, despite playing central centre back. Would be interesting to know. Not sure if we will ever find out, but it would be interesting to know. Now, the next 2 players, I don't think we even need to have a discussion over. They are very much set in stone. One of them is Cucurella, who's going to invite into midfield. We'll discuss which areas of midfield. I can shift them around in a minute once we fill the positions. And the other one, of course, being Moises Caicedo. Sorry, as I've learned, Moise Caicedo. You're supposed to not pronounce the second S. So there you go. That's the kind of the base midfield. Again, we might shift it into like a single midfield of Caicedo, but in principle, it's going to be those 2, right? I assume you're not going to disagree with that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
There you go. Then we'll obviously, the next one that's very much set in stone, Cole Palmer. It's going to be one of the attacking players. Oh, they've still got his old shirt number, so we'll give you his new one. Number 10. Not that it says the number anywhere, so it doesn't really make a difference. And then, this is where we have a question. Now, again, I can shift this around a little bit. If Cucurella fills more this area, Caicedo plays a single 10, almost like creating a bit of a diamond in midfield, if you will, or like I say, a 3-1-5-1. This second number 10, to at least in principle, obviously, usually Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez didn't look great last week. He didn't look fit. He looked super slow. He looked super lethargic. Would you start Andre Santos? And then the follow-up question, do you think Maresca would start Andre Santos?
I would give Andre Santos a start, but no, I don't think he will. I think he'll go with Enzo again. Now, it's a bit like some people will say, well, why would you start Andre? He literally cost us the game or whatever with that miss. But like, I just don't think Enzo looks fit right now. Like, something's up with Enzo. Like,
I just think he's a Hazard that comes out of somewhere a little bit unfit.
The thing is, he doesn't look it. Like shape-wise, he doesn't look it. But like on the pitch, he does. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it just looks slow, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he is slow, but like not this slow. You know,
no,
and also,
when I say slow, I don't mean like sprinting slow. Just the first few steps just look slow to react, slow and explosive.
It wasn't even that. I didn't even think like there was a bit of that last week, but like for me personally, it was his touches were so heavy. It was like he had Timberland boots on. It's like that's the one thing you don't ever not get from Enzo. Like you always get a good touch, you always get a good pass. He's always safe, like on the ball. But he was having some Timberland touches, you know. So I don't know what was up with him against Palace, but yeah.
He really was. Just to make it clear to everybody watching as well, I would probably also go with Andre Santos. I would like to give him a start, but also it's not a case of I want to drop Enzo. But if to me he doesn't look as fit, then I think it just makes more sense to start Andre Santos. Maybe bring Enzo on later in the game when your position is a bit tired. Maybe then he can also have more of an impact in that sense. But I do agree if we're doing predicted 11 as to what the manager will pick, I think Enzo will stay in the team. But again, we obviously don't know how training went. Maybe in the week, Enzo really worked hard in training to make sure, please start me again. I know I wasn't great last week. You never know. You never know. Now, what about the wing? Now, I'm pretty sure Pedro Neto will start. The question is, which side will he start on and which other player will complement him on the opposite wing? Now, last week, of course, we started with Jamie Gittens at left wing and Pedro Neto at right wing. Do you think Estevao is getting his first Premier League start for Chelsea tomorrow, bro?
It's so hard to predict because, I didn't see Estevao coming on as the very first sub against Palace, even though I would have done that. I just Maresca historically. I was surprised he kind of threw him in that early, if that makes sense. I would start. I have a feeling he's just going to go with the same, pretty much the same attack again, to be honest, and just give them another chance, But by the way, I know on this lineup app, if you put Estevao, it comes up with some random German guy called Estevao. So that maybe, yeah, that's one thing to consider, unless they've added it. Yeah,
shit. Who is this guy?
Yeah. So there you go.
What if I search Willian? Will he search up then?
I don't think so. No, he's not. They've not been added because I use this one sometimes, and yeah.
Well, I'll just pretend that this Brazilian is Estevao.
Put his name as Estevao. Put his name. There you go. That's the fix. He's not rated. He don't have a face. He's one of the biggest talents in the world. He don't have a face.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think he will start. I don't know. The way Maresca spoke after the game, and like you said, the fact that Estevao came on as the first sub after less than 60 minutes, I don't know. He just didn't seem happy with Gittens. But also, I wasn't happy with Gittens. So with that said, I reckon Estevao on the right, Pedro Neto on the left is what we're going to see tomorrow.
Yeah,
not sure if you agree, of course, but...
I hope so, mate. I hope so, but if it's predicted, it's Neto and Gittens for me, but I'm happy to put Estevao in there. Fair
dues. Well, it's just two people, so if I say the one thing, you say the other thing. Just remember, people, Pys thinks it's more likely going to be Gittens.
Who does the chat think? Who does the chat think will start?
It's a good question. Shall we put a poll into the chat? Why don't I do that? So let me quickly make a poll for you guys. There you go. See, that's why we need Python, so it reminds me of doing things. Who do you... And I don't want you guys to pick who you would start yourself. I would like for you guys to pick who you think Maresca will start. Who do you think Maresca will start tomorrow? Estevao, can't type, or Gittens. So please choose, because I would say or somebody else, but it's not going to be Tyreek George, realistically. And we don't have anybody else anymore in these positions, so... This is what it is. Now, there's a small question that still remains, and that's about the striker. Now, obviously, Liam Delap came off the bench against Palace. Looked decent, but I don't think you can say he looked better than João Pedro or worse than João Pedro. It was just a different stage in the game. I also think João Pedro started to look better when he then ended up getting subbed off, if that makes sense. I think it will be João Pedro again, but do you think it could be Delap at all?
It definitely could be, but I think it'll be João Pedro. I think he'll stick with him. I wouldn't be shocked to see Delap, but I will say the other thing as well. He was asked today in the press conference whether they could play together, and Maresca said yes. He said that João Pedro could play all 5 attacking positions, even though I'm pretty sure there's only 4, unless he means right wing as well, which I don't know about that, but. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think he'll start both, but who knows? But I think
it was interesting because he then did also specify that he thinks as striker or behind the striker are his best positions, but he can play all of them. So, yeah, I think that's only going to become a potential option if Palmer needs a rest or is injured. I think then we might see something like that. But obviously, by that point, we'll have Xavi Simons. So will it then still happen? Oh, I say we'll have Xavi Simons. We'll probably have Xavi Simons. You can never be too sure if we don't end up having to stick with Nkunku and or Jackson. That will be another interesting one. I did see a couple of people saying above, or one person saying above, Cucurella wrong position. I'm not really sure how you've come to that conclusion. Are you saying that because he's not a left back? This is, again, purely in possession. Out of possession, of course, he will shift back to left back. That is very obvious. And yeah, it's purely because I'm expecting a back five from West Ham. That's what they played last week against Sunderland. So if you do it against Sunderland, chances are you're going to do it against Chelsea, the back five. And that's just what Maresca seems to usually be doing when the opposition play with the back five. So there you go. Enzo won't even be in Santos' position to miss that chance. He wasn't fit. That part is true. That part is true. Now let me just get through a couple of these. It is important to remember that he did end the Club World Cup with a niggle as well, Enzo. So maybe this is part of the situation that's kind of happening. I see him using Gusto at right wing tomorrow. I mean, I guess in the Club World Cup we did that, but again, I don't think against the back five in the Premier League we're going to do that, because if you play Palmer as that position against the back five, he doesn't have space. Now, I'm not saying he has loads of space or had loads of space against Palace last week, but I just don't think this works against defensive teams for us. But again, it would be interesting to see it, I suppose. To be fair to Gittens, playing against Munoz is tough.
Well, can we just say, like, as bad as West Ham are, they've got Wan-Bissaka at right back. He's one of the best defensive.
So I would say that's much more difficult than Munoz.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Ashraf
says against West Ham, back three or back five would be better. Honestly, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it either way. I think if you give João Pedro another start, he's only started one game for us in the league, right? So as much as I wasn't particularly impressed in that game, you need to see more of him. So I think it's perfectly justified to keep him in the team, but it's also justified if you give Delap a chance. Like, it will be interesting to find out, because I think if João Pedro starts again, I think then we're starting to get into a territory where it's quite clear who in Maresca said is the first choice and who is the second choice. While if the lap starts tomorrow, it's very much a 50-50 situation that might just be dependent on the opponent, which one of the striker he does go for. Egregious Monk says Estevao is our best winger. I mean, judging from what we've seen so far, you have to agree with it. Although I think Neto actually had a good game against Palace, but just a good game with a lot of sacrifice, a lot of selflessness, but unfortunately not with directly being very close to like changing the score sheet, if that makes sense. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that he was bad, if that makes sense. Now, I'm just going to call you WKD. He says, just joined. Did you think Josh does not deserve another start? I guess, Pys, can you touch on this as well? We're doing predicted 11, and I think we're all pretty certain that Tosin, now being back fit, will come in for Champong. Would he deserve another chance? I wouldn't mind him playing again, but I wouldn't play him over Tosin, though. So it's it's one of those. I don't think he deserves to be dropped as such, but I just think, well, Tosin is the better player, the more senior player. He's back from injury, so he just comes in. Is that how you see it as well, Pys? Or was it a case of specifically saying you don't want Achampong to start? I don't think it was, right?
No, I think it's just, Chalobah, I think, will probably play left centre-back over him. You won't start him in the middle because Tosin's back, and, Maresca's literally made the comments about Tosin being the only other player he thinks can do that. And then, on the right centre-back, you've got James. So he's right back off the ball. He's not going to play with James. So I think it's just a case of other people ahead of him, in two positions. And then the left centre-back, would you play him there? Maybe. I know Chalobah's right-footed, but again, I do think he looks more comfortable there. He came on only very shortly at left centre-back against Milan and got cooked a couple of times. So I'm not sure. I really like Josh. I just don't think he'll start now that Tosin's back. Which is kind of, I guess, the problem with Josh is that maybe clubs fear of buying another centre back is that obviously Josh is literally getting interest from Man City, from everyone really, and he's good enough to start clearly. I can't believe the defensive job he did on Mateta. I really can't. I thought he'd get bullied, but there's nothing against him. It's just options, I guess, and who's better for what.
Exactly. And give it a couple of weeks. The midweek games will start, the Carabao Cup, the Champions League. And once we get to that point, Reece James won't start every game. Obviously, the direct replacement is then Gusto, but Achampong will get plenty of games. Obviously, maybe something to touch on at the very end. We might touch on the Fofana situation. Could have touched on that in our transfer news segment, I guess. But with that said, I would go to the very last thing to discuss today, which is just a score prediction. That's what I want from you, Pys. Again, Pys, just to ask your opinion on this as well. Do you prefer FOTMob in light theme or in dark theme? Because I felt like last week when I did the post-match stream, I was like, maybe the light screen keeps people more interested and gets you less bored as quickly, I guess, with the brighter screen in your eye. I don't know. What do you reckon? You prefer the light or the dark one?
Yeah, I'm a light screen guy personally.
Really? Are you a light screen guy on Twitter as well?
Yeah, I get this on my actually. On Twitter I kind of differ between, but on streams when I'm streaming, everyone asks for dark mode, and I say light just looks so much better on, like, I think it just does.
Yeah,
it's easier.
like it depends. Like if it's a super late at night stream and I'm thinking people are watching my stream and like lying in bed or it's dark, then I understand that the brightness of the white is a bit annoying. But now it's the middle of the day. I mean, it's only 3 PM in the UK, so I think we'll go with the white. Obviously, here it says predicted lineups. They actually go with Estevao as well. They're taking Gittens fully out of it. FOTMob does not rate Gittens. And they don't know about Caicedo being fit yet. So it will be interesting. But yeah, what is your score prediction for tomorrow, bro? I think we have to go with that one. Will you stick with the same that we predicted on our podcast? Do you remember what you said there?
Did I say 3-1? I think. You said 2-0. Did you say 2-0? I think.
Yep.
I don't know, because like the more I think about it, like I know they're at home, but I really could see us keeping a clean sheet here. I think we should keep a clean sheet with the way West Ham are playing. Over not even just last week, just the last few months. Like I can't get away from how like their fans really despise Graham Potter and the team right now. So it's difficult. You know what? I might go 4-0 Chelsea. Just an absolute battering.
I like it. See, you remember when we did those predictions in the podcast, we were like, yeah, West Ham will obviously try to bounce back. And Jared Bowen was like, he's obviously the new West Ham captain. He was like, yeah, as the captain, I demand more. We demand a reaction against Chelsea. But on that note, it's almost like possibly we also will obviously also have a reaction, right? Had we beat Palace, we might not have that. But you'd hope that we also show a bit of a reaction. And with that, I might actually... I don't know. My optimism has ever so slightly increased, partly by Tosin being back. I can't lie. Just, I don't know, feels more secure, the whole situation. I'll go from 2-0. You went up by 1 goal from your 3-1 to a 4-1. Or did you say 4-0 now?
Oh, I'm going 4-0 now.
4-0. Okay. So you're shifting the goal around. I'm going from 2-0 to a 3-0. So let's see. As long as any of us are right, we're happy. Even if it's a 1-0 win, I don't care. A 6-5 win, also fine. Just win. Please, for the love of God, please win. Because if we don't beat Graham Potter, I mean, that's a disgrace. You have to be beating Graham Potter. You can't not. You absolutely have to. So, yeah. Because
you look at it, bro. Just look at their protected team, though. Like, literally, they have got... I mean, it's Bowen and Prey, right? Like... I mean, Paqueta's been terrible for months. I mean, maybe Souček from a corner, but generally we're quite good at defending corners. We're just terrible at attacking them.
I mean, Wilson has scored a couple of goals against us over the years, but he's like ancient, I don't know.
Like he's ancient. So, yeah, I think we should be all right.
Yeah, we should be. I mean, Füllkrug, obviously the guy they signed from Dortmund last year, hasn't really hit the ground running there. He's in the FOTMob's predicted 11. He's not in there, so let's see. But yeah, so far it's not really gone too well for them. We should really be beating them. But at the same time, obviously we beat them on both occasions last year. 3-0, obviously away, one of our best away performances last year. But historically, the London Stadium hasn't necessarily been the most successful ground for us. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Kushal, and maybe this is a question to end it on, Pys. Panic if we don't win?
I mean, you can't panic 2 games into a season, but it wouldn't be a good start because I think it would put a lot of pressure on Fulham to win that game. And I think Fulham's going to be a much harder game than West Ham. I mean, they beat us at Stamford Bridge last season. They're a good team. So, yeah, 12:30 kickoff as well is never, you never trust the 12:30, as you say. So, yeah.
No, exactly. You never trust the 12:30, as you say. That is true. That's true. Wait, what did somebody else say? Time zones are a factor. It might be night for someone. That is very true, Nene. It might be night for you. But then when it's night for me, it might be day for somebody else. You know what I mean? So that always swings and roundabouts. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go panic, but I would go, ooh. If you can't beat Palace and West Ham, it's not a good start, that. But at the same time, what we said in our post-match podcast, maybe we still have to kind of keep that in mind. We had 2 weeks pre-season. These other teams had 6 to 7. Now we now have 1 competitive game in our legs. But it's still slightly up in the air because of that. Like, how much of a disadvantage are we at by not having a proper preseason? Maybe we'll come out of that tomorrow saying this Club World Cup, as much as it got us a nice badge and a nice bunch of money, really, really killed us. I hope that's not what we're going to say after the game tomorrow, but it could.
Yeah,
sorry, Pies,
100%.
bring you in on that. Do you
No,
have any reaction to that?
no, I just agree. I agree. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Banana says, I'm definitely not panicking if we don't win, especially if we want to challenge for the league. Oh, you are definitely panicking if we don't win, if we want to challenge for the league. Well, the challenge for the league bit, I think, is part of where the problem at the moment comes from. I don't really know why and how people are expecting that. Now, is it just for beating PSG? I guess that part makes sense, but I don't think anything that we did last season makes me think we're going to challenge for the league now. And I don't think many of the signings suggest that either, if I'm being honest. Like, maybe João Pedro is a slight improvement on Jackson, but nothing dramatic. Estevao, okay, but I can't put that pressure on him yet. I don't see it with Gittens. I won't see it with Garnacho, really. Hato is a great addition, but as a backup to Correa that we desperately needed. So it's like, I don't really see that the squad is developed to an extent that we should. Honestly, I don't even think we should have that expectation. I want us to be closer. I want us to get more points than we did last season. But I mean, do you think in your head, Pies, you think we should challenge for the league this year? Like, obviously, it would be nice, but I don't think can't be my expectation.
No, I mean, no centre back as well. No top centre back signing. We've lost Colwill. No goal. Like, Sanchez still in goal. Whatever you want to say about Sanchez last few months, Sanchez is still in goal. So, like, it's still Robert Sanchez. You can't win a league with Robert Sanchez unless you've got like Arsenal level defence, maybe. Gabriel Saliba's, and just play that way. Which we don't. So yeah, no. I mean, like you said, left wings. We spoke about this on a podcast. I'm not impressed. With either signing, even though it's been one game for Gittens and Garnacho's played 0.
The other signing we haven't even made.
Yeah, we're still here. I'm just not. I don't think that they're going to be needle movers. I think Xavi Simons the only player that I'm going to put my hat on to say he's going to come in and I think he will make a difference. But again, squad balance, who misses out? Like, we've got so many attackers that maybe someone else suffers that we really want to play. So it's like, I don't know, man. We buy so many attackers, and who knows? Like, but yeah, I don't think we've had a Champions League, level Club World Cup winners window, in my opinion.
No, I would disagree. We haven't quite had that, but obviously, I got rid of it too soon. Banana said his expectations stem from a progress standpoint. I think we need to break the 75-point barrier. Whether it's 75 points, we need to have more points than last year. I agree with that, and we need to just be closer. But yeah, you've made your point in terms of that it's not necessarily about winning the league. Why is Xavi's deal taking so long? Devanesh says we need to make sales first in Nkunku, potentially, and Jackson as well. And Kushal asks, are we going to see the third kid tomorrow? We might do. Do you reckon, Pies? Last year we played in the white one, so I feel like we're probably more likely to play in this one. But maybe, considering they announced it, it would make sense. With the Palace, obviously they have the burgundy red, the light blue, and the white shorts, trousers, whatever. You could play the black, I guess. Do you reckon we see the black tomorrow, Pies?
I've seen if I could double check whether they've announced that or not.
Do they announce that before?
Yeah, you can usually see what kit. So on the betting apps, it's saying we're in blue. Apparently, we're in the home kit. So
it's interesting because, like I said, last year we played in that off-white away shirt in that game.
Yeah,
so exactly. I guess it could be any of the three, really. I think the color clashes are all right. Honestly, I probably wouldn't go with the home compared to their dark red with our slightly dark blue. I wouldn't probably go with that, but either of the other two, I'll probably find. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about time we wrap this one up. I appreciate everybody that has tuned in today. Appreciate you, Pies, for joining me. I appreciate it a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. It would be massively appreciated. Hit the like button on your way out. That would be fantastic as well. Of course, we will be back straight after the game tomorrow for our post-match reaction. By the way, the vote in terms of who do you think Maresca will start went very clearly in Estevao's favor with 77% of the votes. So thank you for getting involved in that poll as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we will see you next time.